What you didn't see in that video was how small his room was. It was like the size of this right here. It was like a bed, and he'll have to show you that sometime. It was like a bed, and it was called a pod, actually. And it's literally a pod. So I think his story there is very reflective of something we're going to be talking about over the next several weeks. We're beginning a new series today called Text. And here's what the whole thing is about. This whole idea of text is about the fact that there's an ancient text that we that call ourselves Christians, Christ followers, we base our faith upon. It's an ancient text, and I think a lot of times because it's an ancient text and it is so dated centuries back, so much of its writing, we tend to dismiss it as irrelevant. We kind of miss the modern truth that is encapsulated in this ancient text. And, just like in Jamie's case where he was trying to get to New York and there were delays, there were standbys, when he got there were, so many overwhelming things for him to get to the destination he was trying to get to. I think it's very reflective of our own lives. I think we have the same problem so often is that, we get into this life and we start going down a road that we want our life to go down. And we have this mental picture, or maybe we write out the picture of what we want our life to look like. And there are setbacks, there are delays, there are standbys, there are turns that we have to take that we're not prepared for. We get to a place where we are just overwhelmed and there is too much for us to try to take in, and so we give up. And I think the same is true when it comes to this topic of the Bible. When it comes to the Bible, I think that's what we do. We kind of put it to the side because maybe at one point we tried to get into it and we tried to understand it, and then we started reading a bunch of stuff that we didn't really understand, and we started getting into a bunch of names that we don't understand. That personally I think would just be fun to start naming kids with some of those names. Methuselah, I mean, who wouldn't want to name their child that? And we kind of, I think we get into this kind of stuff and it starts becoming an overwhelming thing, and we kind of get into I don't really own any sheep, so I don't know what sheep herding has to do with my life. So I don't know how to kind of deal with that and how to transfer it to my life. And we, at some point, kind of give up. And we don't understand it because it's a very unique book. And so over the next several weeks, what we are going to do is we're going to kind of jump into that a little bit and maybe get some understanding of why is this book important? Where did it come from? What are its origins? What about the seeming contradictions that are in it? What about the contradictions with what we believe history teaches and what the Bible has to say? Because here's the hope. Is that you and I would be able to walk away from this series with a fresh perspective and a fresh understanding of what God's Word is. Because it's more than just a book for us. If this book, this text, is truly what it claims to be, then we must respond to it and we must do something about it. We cannot just leave it to the side and discount it as irrelevant. Because it's centuries old and some of the writings are just ancient. What I think is interesting is that it's really the only book that we do that to. You ever notice that any other ancient writing we don't dismiss as irrelevant, we latch right onto. I mean, we latch on to the ancient writings of people like Socrates and Aristotle. Or, jump a few centuries ahead and Shakespeare and Joyce and all these different writers. And even though they're outdated as far as our current lifestyle is concerned, we don't dismiss them as irrelevant. We look into their philosophies and their points on life, and we tend to build structures around them. Yet when it comes to the book that is the most unique book ever in history, we tend to discount it because we start off with, I don't understand it and I don't know what's going on and I'm not even sure that I really believe what it says. rather than jumping in and finding truth. And I think just like Jamie said in that video, that we would rather stay in a comfortable place. Whether we grew up in church and we have an understanding of a preconceived idea of what the Bible is all about and what it teaches and what it means, we tend to stay in that comfortable place because it's comfortable. Or maybe we've never jumped into the Bible, and the comfortable place for us is to not even deal with it at all, because what if it is true? Then I have to actually do something about it. And maybe my life system and the idea of my life and how it's supposed to work is completely off because the Bible is true and I've been living counter to what the Bible teaches. And what I think is interesting is, and here's the deal. Over the next few weeks, we're not here to actually defend the Bible. We're not going to try to defend every question that we may have about the Bible. In fact, the Bible doesn't even defend itself. The Bible actually begins with the assumption that the reader is approaching it with a belief of what it teaches. It's kind of the same thing as if you were to build a cabinet, or you bought something new from the store and you got to build it and there's instructions with it. The instructions are not there to convince you that what you just bought needs to be built and to convince you that those instructions that came with it are the correct way to build it. The instructions begin with the assumption that you already know that instruction manual is how to put that together and that needs to be put together for it to function correctly. So we jump into reading those instructions with the understanding that this is how it's supposed to be built and this is how it's going to tell me to be built. And really it's the same with the Bible. This is God's instruction manual for our lives. And God begins with the assumption that you and I at some point understand that, you know what? God has a design for life. And He has put this life together in a specific way. And in order for it to function properly, in order for my life to function in the correct way, then I have got to consult the instruction manual. And I wish I could say to you that we will understand everything that is there. We will understand every question. We will have an answer. And the reality is we don't. The Bible is a book of mystery. It's full of mystery. And we love mysteries. We love mystery. But for our Western civilization here in America, we love mysteries, but we love to solve mysteries. We don't like to leave those questions out there. We want to know the answer. I hate movies that don't answer anything. That's why I think Lost is the most pathetic show that's ever been invented. Because they do not answer anything. They just keep creating more questions. I think it's because they don't really know what they're doing and they forgot what they were writing, and so they just start making up new stuff. But anyway, that's, we want things answered. We don't like leaving mysteries unsolved. We like watching TV shows about unsolved mysteries. And we've created whole departments within our law enforcement departments that all they do is they go for cold case files and attempt to solve cases that some are decades old that have never been solved, because we cannot leave things unsolved. But the reality is, when it comes to the Bible, I think part of the beauty of what it is and part of its relevance is found in the mystery. For us to understand, why is it relevant? Why is it important for our lives? Part of that answer is found in the mystery that our finite minds cannot grasp everything that is there. We try to grasp it, but our finite minds cannot wrap our minds around the fact that a being called God that has never had a beginning, try to fathom that. God has never had a beginning, and we wrestle with that, and we struggle with it, and we can't get our minds around it, and so we give up on trying to take anything else that is in there. So today, what I want to do is I hope to kind of build a reason for you of why it's important for you and I to walk away and to not discount this as irrelevant, but understand its relevance and see that it is important for our